Hello, welcome back to Miemie's Keepsakes and our beginner slow stitch project. So today we'll just catch up quickly on what we've already done. We started with a base fabric and then we added all these little squares and the doily, and we attached it to our base fabric with the invisible stitch and also a little bit of overcast stitch here and there. And then on video 2 I showed you how to do the running stitch and some canvas stitching and the seed stitch, and also to do the running stitch in shapes and different you can do different things with it. So today we're going to add some extra decorations onto our pouch, and I'm going to put it just in the way the pouch will lay, because it's just one piece of fabric. You have to keep in mind which way the fabrics will be sewn on. And if you've ever made a envelope with a paper, like with printed paper, if you fold this over, you need to attach this differently than you would on this side. I know it sounds, maybe I'm not explaining well enough, but anyway, let's just go ahead. That's just technical. Anyway, so the first thing I want to do, I have this doily and I want to add this rose on to the flap of my pouch. So I'm just going to go in and just fussy cut around this rose. Let me see if I have smaller scissors. It's just easier. So this is kind of, it's not really cheating, but the embroidery has already been done. So if you are a beginner and you think, oh, I don't know any stitches, or I don't want to embroider but I like the look, this is how you can get it. And these doilies I just found at the thrift store. They are, well, they are becoming a little bit more expensive than when I first started buying them. It seems like people at the thrift stores noticed that, they're in demand. So I am just cutting around this. And don't worry about the little bit of white that's sitting there. You don't want to cut too close and cut into the stitches. So that's just part of the look. And I think this one, this one wasn't a hand embroidered piece. It's a machine embroidered piece, but it's still beautiful. No, this actually was hand done. Wow, it's very neat at the back, but it is hand done. Mine doesn't always look that neat at the back. Okay. So you get the idea of fussy cutting. I'm gonna finish this off camera and come back and we'll attach this to the pouch. I'll be back in a minute. So my rose is, I finished cutting it out and I'm thinking I want it something like this. So we're just going to pin it onto here. And before I start, that pin is totally blunt. Just pin it on, because we're still going to decide on other pieces that we'll sew onto this. So now my flap has something decorative on it. So now the next thing I would probably want, let me just see if I can get my piece to sit exactly how I want it to sit. Okay, so the next thing I want, let me just fiddle with this a little bit. There, I just don't want that to fold over. I need something here and here, and as you can remember, this fabric is what started, well, this and Beth from Yes I Made It Myself, because this is for my summer swap project. She said, you know, because the winner will be announced on the 1st of July. It is like Canada Day, and then the 4th of July for America's close to that date as well. So that's how I started with the red and the blue. It was all Beth, and then I found this fabric, and I thought, you know, it's not too patriotic in any sense. It's just the colors. Anyway, so what I want to do is just, I've already started fussy cutting some of this, so I need something maybe here, or maybe I don't want it to cover everything. Maybe I can do it here so that when you open, this is still pretty as well, but it just shows, yes, I do like that. And then maybe I need just a little something peeking out somewhere here. I do want that blue to show. Let me just fussy cut this out. So we're going to do the fussy cutting on this exactly the way we did on the doily. I just kind of did this with a bigger edge because I do like the polka dots in the back. Okay. Threads everywhere, that's just part of it. So maybe I'll just kind of do this sitting, peeking out there, and then when I open it, I'll just see, okay, yes, I am happy with how that looks. And just pin quickly. So this is a very red project. I don't normally work with red a lot, which is, I don't know why. Like I said, it reminds me of Christmas, but not that that's a bad thing, so I don't know why I kind of avoid Christmas. Red. So this is on the back. I have this big piece here that I thought might work, but it's going to go over. Let's see. I like how that looks. I can always cut it smaller, but how does it look on this side? Actually not too bad. Maybe I'll use the big piece. I was thinking maybe I'll cut it smaller, but we'll just leave it. Okay, so now we need to pin again. Yeah, we're not going to do anything too serious. This is supposed to be definitely as a beginner project. So you can see without embroidery, you can actually make your piece look interesting. And now that I have everything here, I might decide to do more canvas stitching or running stitch. But on the other hand, I still have trims that I can add to add interest. I have these little yellow flowers. I have another doily here. So yes, now we're going to, before we sew anything on, decide what else do we want to do. Let's see. What did I bring? I have some. Okay. I think what I'm going to do, just to see again how it looks on each side, is to do this and then decide where I want to add things. So maybe I need some blue here. I don't necessarily want to cut this because I think it might, but if it frays, it's okay. Does it really matter? That's too much. We can always add some lace up here. To decorate this. Okay. And it is very busy, so I'm thinking that little bit of blue gives your eye a bit of a, just to rest maybe. I could add some yellow in here, so it's just a matter of playing with your, just as you would when you're decorating a tag or a paper envelope. That's how I think of these, and then it just makes it easier for me. I know Rachel said she had trouble working with paper when she, from Rachel from Roxy Creations, when she started with this, because she was using fabrics, textiles before, and she said she started looking at the paper as just fabric. And so I'm thinking, for me it's the other way around with slow stitching. So I'm thinking, if I pretend this is paper, then it won't be that scary. I don't know if I like that blue. Maybe this one. It's a little softer. Let's cut it out. Okay. Yep, so now you're just going to play around, and this is the fun part where you can decide what you want to do, how you want to decorate. Like I said, this is the fun part. Do I want some yellow here again? Maybe there. Okay. I have this little dangle here. I just feel like that ends very abruptly. don't know if maybe we just add a bit of the polka dot fabric in there. Let's just find a spot. I don't want it to be a big piece. A spot where I can get, let's see if this works, if it's not sure, but I'm going to pin it down, and I can decide later on if I want to keep it there. I need to go through these pins. Some of them are, I think, covered in glue. Okay, so I think this is busy enough. I'm not going to add anything. Let's see if we want to add more lace on this side. What I do think I'm going to do is come in here and add some seed stitches in the blue, maybe lower, because as you can see, most of my seed stitches are now covered, and I'm going to fill this in here with some seed stitch. And maybe we can have some of the yellow in here, just like this maybe. So now I have a lot of pins in here, and to do some of it I'll have to remove some of it. Some, you know, so like to do the seed stitching in here, I'll remove all of these pieces and decide where I want the seed stitching. So what I would suggest is, before you start removing anything, just take a photo with your cell phone, and then you won't remember where your elements were. I am not sure I want to add anything more. Maybe in here I'll add a little bit of lace maybe. Okay. And I think that's enough. I mean, you can add as much or as little as you want to, just like we're doing with the junk journal items. So I'm not going to, I still want some of my stitching to show, and I'm going to add more stitching here. So the next step would be to come back. I'm going to fill that in with slow stitching, and then I can quickly show you. Maybe let's do it here, and then we can come back and show you how far we got, or I got. So I have just regular thread here, just, you know, sewing thread, and all you're going to do is, again, just start like we did before and do either an invisible stitch or the overcast stitch to attach these flowers to your base again. And so this, it all, oh, that I did wrong. It all takes a little while. Don't think I'm going to sit here for 2 seconds or 2 minutes and my project is done. But let me just thread this. But that is what is the enjoyable part of slow stitching for me. It's just kind of the repetitiveness of it. It is very creative, but it's I can sit and kind of mindlessly just do my stitches, think of other things, even watch TV, or just sit on my porch and watch the view and enjoy creating. You can do this anywhere. If You can take it with you if you're going on vacation. You don't need a lot of things to pack. You know, it's doable. If you think ahead and plan ahead, you can even, like I did when we traveled to South Africa, I'll try to link that video where I showed you how I packed a little, just a cheap old lunch bag of my kids with my fabrics and my threads. It was small enough to go into my suitcase, and I packed a little plastic bag for on the airport because we were sitting on one airport for 14 hours. Just something to keep you busy, or you can even do it in the plane if you think and plan. So what I'm trying to say is, long story short, you can do this anywhere. So anyway, we're going to go and do this for all the pieces, attach them to your base. Okay, and again, it's just the invisible stitch. Because this fabric doesn't fray too much, I'm not doing overcast stitch, but you can do the overcast stitch. So I'll just show you invisible stitches where your thread comes out. Maybe that not, let's just recap that quickly. So where your thread comes out, you will put the needle end very close to where that thread comes out to create a teeny tiny stitch there. And then you'll come up from the back again. So in the back, a little farther away, that would create a bigger stitch, teeny tiny stitch here. Come in a little farther. So that is the invisible stitch. And I'm sorry, but my background is very busy. So if you want to do the overcast stitch, you start close to the edge of your fabric, and then you go off the fabric onto your back fabric. So this is the overcast stitch. If you feel that your fabric's going to fray too much, that would help with not fraying. And then you come in from the back and then off from your fussy cut piece and onto your background, and that's overcast stitch. If you think you want to make sure your fabric do not fray too bad. Other options is you could I'm very new at videoing this, please be, it's very close. Anyway, the other thing that you can do is put a fray check on the edges. I do not like doing that because the fray check kind of hardens the edges of your fussy cut, and then it's very hard to sew through. I did that when I started, and I wouldn't suggest that. If you don't want to sew all of this on, you can also cheat and use fabric tack. Fabric tack is this fabric, let's go up a little bit, a fabric glue that you can use to glue these pieces on, but I feel that then you've taken away of the fun of slow stitching, but you can definitely do that. There's also an iron-on option where you can back these pieces and iron it on, like a double-sided iron-on onto your base piece. I think it's Fabric Fusion. I'm not sure about that. Don't quote me on that. But again, it stiffens and hardens your fabric, so it's very hard to get your needle through. But that's another option. If you don't want to sew, then you can just iron this on. But like I say, for me at least, making these slow stitch projects are about sitting, just relaxing, and just sewing. Even though it might sound very boring, just try it. You'll be surprised at how relaxing and therapeutic this is. I don't know why, it just is. The other question that I had when I started doing this, a lot of people asked me, so what are you going to do with this honestly, does it really matter? You are creating something that you are enjoying, and if it gives you joy, just do it. It doesn't have to have a purpose. I did this one. I did decide to make this easy project something that we're going to use in the summer swap. Just because a lot of people might feel like, why am I doing this? But honestly, it is just to bring you joy. If that's all it does, then why complain? Anyway, so I'm just gonna quickly talk again about the summer swap. Today is the day that we'll be announcing the participants. If for some reason you still want to slip in for the summer swap, just email me. I will add you. I had a lot of questions about, is there a theme for the swap? No, there's no theme. If you can do whatever you want to. If you and your partner decide, well, let's swap Christmas items because I don't have a lot, then do so. Contact your partner as soon as possible and start communicating about what you want to swap. That's what the swap is about. You might have something that she needs, or maybe your partner say, well, I don't really mind in surprise me. Then well, sometimes that's harder. Or you might decide we want to send out handmade tags, or anything. The sky is the limit. There's no rules here. The swap is about contacting people, making new connections, making new friends. Yeah, it's just fun. Honestly, it's a lot of fun. And I know the summer is busy, so maybe try to not make the swap items too complicated. We've didn't give as much time this time around maybe for swapping, but even if your mailing item arrive a day or two late, it's not a crisis. There's no swap police that will come in and say, hey, your item was late, you're disqualified. It's about just making connections. That's what the swap is about. So anyway, I hope you did sign up for the swap and that you will be happy with what you get out of the swap. Like I said, it's about acquiring maybe items that you don't have a lot of maybe something that somebody made, and it gives you ideas to copy and make the same thing and create your own. So swap is just about relaxing. Anyway, enough about the swap. We are busy with slow stitching now. I am going to go ahead and sew all of these pieces on. To be honest with you, remember, this is not going to take you 5 minutes. It's going to take some time, so put time aside every day to just relax and enjoy stitching. Just enjoy doing, even if it's just 10 minutes. You don't have to spend 5 hours each day on this, and you're not going to, because it doesn't take that long. But just take a couple of minutes and just sit and relax and do a little bit on your project. It does not have to be finished in one day. Anyway, I'll come back with more sewing, and then we'll put the envelope together for when, after I've sewed all my pieces on. We're going to close the envelope up, and then we're also going to talk about alternative ways to use this exact same thing and make other things. Okay, so I'll be back soon, and keep working on your slow stitch project. I'll be back for you in a minute. So I have finished sewing everything onto my pouch, and I am more or less happy the way it looks. So there. Today we're going to work on putting the pouch together, and sewing it shut. So that's how mine will look. If you open it up, it's going to look like this. It is very busy, but I kind of like it. Anyway, so you have two options. To keep it really simple, you can just leave it like this and just sew the pouch shut, and there would you'll open it up and that is your pouch and you'll put stuff inside. Or you can add a little lining to hide your stitches inside. It's not necessary at all, but I'll show you quickly how to do it. It's very easy, very simple. I'm not going to go into make it too difficult, make the seams invisible. This is a slow stitch project, so it's all about those stitches and things that we can see. So all you're going to do is simply pick a fabric for your lining if you want to do a lining. If you do not want to do a lining, you can definitely skip this process because it doesn't necessarily need a lining. It is just to be a little fancy. Anyway, so you're just going to pin fabric on, and as you can see, I have the right side of my lining to the outside, and then this, because we're simply going to sew it on like this. We're not going to try to hide any seams or nothing. We're going to make this as easy as possible because it is a beginner's project. If you're not a beginner and you want to go ahead and make this any other way, then please go ahead. Like I say, we're trying to make this as easy as possible for those who are starting and never done something like this before. And I don't want it to seem to be too complicated and then you don't want to go ahead and make something. Okay, so I'm just putting a couple of pins in the middle just to keep my fabric in place, and then we're just going to go ahead and cut this out. I don't want to cut over that little bit of lace. Okay, I'm just gonna cut here on the bottom. Just doing the exact same thing, it's just off screen because it is a little bit bigger than what I can accommodate. Okay, and then here we are simply going to roughly again just follow along, and so now you have 3 layers of fabric in here. So if you just fair warning, if you want to send something like this as a happy mail or as a share, the shipping will be a little bit more than just paper. So just to let you know, I just wanted to, like I said, I like to make a pouch for my happy mails, but in the last 3 shares I think I made a paper pouch, so I thought we'll do something different. And then I also do the project that some of you asked for, which was a slow stitch project. So okay, so now you have this straight piece. You can go ahead, if you do not feel comfortable, and just put some rough stitches in here to keep it in place. I don't even think that's necessary. Just go in like I'm doing here and make sure the back of your fabric is nice and flat, and we are going to pin it and start sewing it together. But before we do that, I wanted to show you this pouch can also become, you can follow the exact same idea if you want to make a journal cover. The configuration would just be different. You probably put your flowers this way. I'm just going to use my glue book, but you can sew a signature in there have this as the flap or closure for your journal, and then you'll open it up, and then your journal will be in the middle. You can also, if you let me fix that, I saw that if you don't want the flap, you can obviously make that just straight, and that will be your journal cover. So in effect, you've always also made a journal cover by making this pouch. Or this pouch is great to, it's great to have a couple of them, and you can add a journal inside. Like once it's sewed together, you can add the journal inside, and that will just protect your journal. Or you know, this, you can use it to store your embroidery threads and all kinds of things. Anyway, so this here we're going to sew it shut. I need to throw that pin away. It's in the garbage. So okay, so now I've put my pouch the way I want it. I'm going to put more pins here on the side. That's not a pin, actually. That's a needle that I can use. Don't know what it's doing in there. But anyway, pin your pouch on the side. There. And then on this side. Okay. And I am, this part of my pouch, I'm just going to sew on with invisible stitch again, like we did when we sewed these pieces on. And you can look again at video number 2, part 2, of how to do the invisible stitch. This part I'm going to sew on with a blanket stitch. If you receive this pouch and you want to change the pouch into a journal cover, you can easily just take the blanket stitch out. You might have to do a couple of extra things to it, but anyway, let's get started. So I'm gonna do the blanket stitch on red on this fabric first, so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm sorry about all the little threads sitting here. I'm just gonna bring the camera in a little bit so you can see. And again, be very kind. I've never done sewing on camera, honestly. I've been too nervous to do that because I am not a professional slow stitcher at all. I just started myself, and it is kind of hard to record this because your hands are in front of everything. So hopefully you can see what I'm doing. So you're going to make a knot as normal, and then you're going to go in from the bottom, and then your first stitch, I find that with blanket stitch starting is, for me personally, is the hardest. So the first stitch, and I'm doing it on a edge here, so because we're going to sew the pieces together, so that's why I'm showing it this way. I'll show it on a flat surface in a minute. So then you just go in before you pull it shut and just pull that first stitch shut, and then you're going to go in, try to go in more or less the same length from the seam, but again, it doesn't have to be perfect on the back. So when you're doing this, you're going to get like a cross there, but then from the front, before you pull it shut, you're going to put your needle again through the thread. Okay, and I'm making mine really big so you can see. Okay, you're gonna go in from the back again, more or less the same length from the side, pull it in, bring that loop through, and then just pull it tight. So like I say, I'm making a really big one so you guys can see. And then if you look at the back, it would look the same at the back. So again, we're going in from behind, and I just keep that loop, pull your thread through the loop, and there you go. In from behind, keep the thread, through the loop, and there you go. And that is blanket stitch. So I'll do a couple more so you can see. And best thing is to practice this excuse me, on a piece of fabric before you do it on your pouch. If you've never done this before, honestly, there is probably some of you that think this is so easy. Why am I showing it so slow? But it's because we're starting out. So that is your blanket stitch. It just kind of gives it a beautiful edge on the side. I'll show you quickly. I shouldn't put that in my mouth. I show you quickly. Just need some thread. How to do this on a flat surface. It's the exact same thing, because you know you might want to do a blanket stitch when you're doing applique work. Say for instance you want to make a little bird or something like that, then you'll probably do a blanket stitch on a flat surface. So same thing, you're going to go in from the back, start your first stitch like that, and come back and then catch the loop. The first stitch is always the one that throws me off, because you have to catch that loop on the first stitch. Okay, whoops. Then you're going to come in here. So it's a little different because you don't have that edge to accommodate. Oh. Okay, it's not straight at all, but you get what I'm saying. So then you go up. So can you see the difference that from when you're doing it on a flat surface? I'm not doing it straight at all. So instead of a loop, you're just going to go up and down, up and down. Just another thing if you want to see how a different stitch is made. So again, this is on a flat surface, a blanket stitch. It's not totally straight, but so you could have gone in when we were doing these little squares, you can sew them on with blanket stitch, and that would just make a nice decorative edge for them as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and do our, I hope that was slow enough, because a lot of times, I'm not trying to say that these are difficult, but when I start and I want to see how to make a new stitch, a lot of times the videos go so fast that I can't really follow, and that I have the same problem with the crochet videos. So a lot of times it's easier for me to go on Pinterest and watch on Pinterest. You can obviously go around and do the blanket stitch this way too, but I don't want to have the blanket stitch over this nice edge of mine. So if you don't have that, then go ahead and do the blanket stitch around. So to start, and I want to hide my knot, okay, because I don't want the knot to sit on the outside. Obviously I'm going to start and put my knot in between these two, okay, so that way my knot is hidden. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to change my mind, sorry. I am going to start with blanket stitch over here, because I do have that lace here and it gives a nice edge there, but that edge is a little raw. So let's start with that, and then we'll go around and sew it all together. Okay, so again I'm going to go in between the layers so my knot doesn't show there. I wonder if I should, I think it should be okay because I'll do a hidden stitch over there. Okay, just a couple of decisions to make. So I'm going to go in at the same spot that I started, and then I'm taking my needle through the loop and just pull everything nice and tight, and then I'm just gonna go in through the loop, and don't pull it too tight, you don't want it to. Okay, and in and through the loop. Okay, and see, it just gives it a nice edge there, and I am doing mine bigger than I normally will. Probably go in and make this a little smaller, but I want you guys to be able to see what I'm doing. Okay, and you can make them as big as you want, as close together, as far apart, and maybe I'll say okay, it's good enough, because, and I'm doing a blanket stitch to sew my pouch shut, just because I want the stitches to show, and then you guys learn a new stitch as well. Okay, oops. So I missed, seeing if that happens, it's not a big deal, just go in and you can loosen that loop again, and I just need to thread my needle again. Okay, and then go through the loop. So if you miss the loop, not a big deal. Through the loop, and then I get here to the corner, I go through the loop. So now I'm going to start and sew my pouch shut. Okay, so I'm gonna go in here, and what I am going to do is just do like maybe a double stitch here before I start the blanket stitch, just because this would be the vulnerable spot where it will come apart and tear. Okay, I'm going to do one more because I need the loop. Go through the loop. Oh, my thread is getting really short. Okay, and then I go in, and I am going through all 4 of those layers because you want it to close up your pouch. Okay, I'm going to do one more stitch and then end it off and show you how we're going to end it off, because I need a new, my thread is too short. Which one do I pull? Okay, so again, because I pulled it tight, I missed my loop. I just bring my loop out, and so now I'm going to end it off, and again I don't want it to show, so I'm going to go in between the layers and just go in there, catch it. My thread is ended, then go through the loop to create a knot and just go in and do two. Okay, my thread is very short, and then cut it off. Maybe I'll just do one stitch here to make sure it doesn't come undone, because it's pretty close to the top. So see, now those are all together. So let's do just a little bit more, and then you can do it on your own and finish off your little pouch. Just thread my needle. Should have done a couple of needles. Didn't think about that. Okay, come on. Just fighting here with the threads. Okay, so I am taking 3. I'm just doing regular embroidery thread. So again, I split it in half and just took 3 of it. If you want your stitches to show more, you can do all 6. So again, I'm just gonna go in between the layers to hide my knot, push it in there, and you're gonna go in close to where you started and catch the loop. Okay, so you're gonna continue doing this all the way to the end, all the way to there. And while you were making a pouch, you were also learning how to make a journal cover without even knowing it. So if you want to change yours into a journal cover, now is the time. Then don't do this step, or you can even do this step but don't shut it. You can do the blanket stitch just around the open piece and not sew it shut. Okay, whoops, that is not a pretty one. They don't all have to be pretty. We want it to look hand sewn, we want it to have that rustic feeling, or if that's the look you're going for, that's the look I like. Otherwise I could have bought it at a store, if my opinion. Okay, we're almost done. Whoops, I missed the loop. Let's bring it in. And that happens especially when your thread or for me, when your thread is becoming a little shorter. So now we're at the end here, so we're going to stop obviously here, but again I would suggest going in, just get my thread out here, going in here just because it's the end of the pouch, to make a couple of double knots. And I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to catch one more loop here and then just kind of go in and just make sure that corner, because it's again a vulnerable spot in your pouch, that corner-ish is I'm just struggling to thread my needle again because next time I need to take longer pieces. Anyway, so just a couple of times in there, and then to end it off I would again make a knot and another one. Maybe I have too many stitches here now. And then just take your needle in and just make a couple of, just thread it in between those layers, pull it out, and then just cut it really close to your, get rid of all the threads, close to your fabric, and that is it. So now your pouch is shut. And you're going to do it on this side as well. I'll come back and do that, and I'll show you, I'll finish the invisible stitch on here, come back and show you how we'll close the pouch up for adding stuff. Okay, I'll bring the camera up a little bit again because it's very close up. So something like that. Okay, easy peasy. And then when you're done, you're going to take all the bends out, obviously. Okay, finish both sides and I'll come back in a minute. I have finished, the pouch is done. All the other thing that I added to finish it up was just sew in some snaps that I got from the thrift store, and it's not necessary to sew in the snap, but you can sew in a snap or maybe even some Velcro, anything if you feel you want to keep your pouch shut. And then what I would also just add, just to make it look pretty, is add just a little ribbon, sari silk ribbon. Sari silk makes everything look pretty. let's just go over, I'll put that on in a minute. So what we did is we started with a base, and then we added blocks of fabric, added some stitching on our fabrics, and then we added the decoration. So I decided not to do anything further to this pouch. I want to keep it simple and not overwhelm any beginners. I wanted it to feel like this is something that you can actually do. But I would probably go in, if this wasn't a beginner and for a little bit more advanced, I would go in here and fill in the flowers with some satin stitches and some French knots and things like that. But maybe we'll do that on a next project. If you enjoyed this and you would like me to do something like this again, where we will learn new stitches, then let me know in the description box. I really enjoy doing this, but this is just to begin. And we've kind of cheated, pretended that we've embroidered something here, but this is actually just a doily. So you can definitely add texture and more to this, beads, all kinds of things, to make it look more advanced. But for now, I think this is all we're going to do. And remember, I also said that this can also be a journal cover. So in effect, you've also learned how to make a soft journal cover. So I will fill this pouch with ephemera pieces for the winner. I'm not going to show all of it. I want to leave some as a surprise. We'll close the little pouch and just put a nice sari ribbon around it. And then if you're not using the sari ribbon, of course this is something you can use in your next slow stitch project, of course, or in your journal. So it's also ephemera, but it just looks pretty with the bow. So that's it. That's our first very easy slow stitch project finished. You probably learned, let me see, we learned the invisible stitch, the overcast stitch, the running stitch, and seed stitch. So and the blanket stitch. So we've used 5 stitches in here, and they were all very easy to do, very easy to learn, honestly. And you don't need to know a bunch of stitches to make a slow stitch project. I think what is charming about the slow stitch projects is the fact that it's unfinished, it looks rustic, it's not, it looks like you just put it together with old clothing and stuff. Anyways, something like that. But that is what I find, what I like about slow stitching. I do like the unfinished edges, the torn edges, and just the simplicity of it. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you have not yet, please like and subscribe, and put the notification bell on, and you will be notified when I have a video again. And let me know if you are interested in more slow stitching projects. I definitely enjoyed this and would love to make more things like this. I am also going to put a photo tutorial on my website, which is also Miemie's Keepsakes, www.miemieskeepsakes. I will do that tomorrow, so don't expect it to be up on the website probably by Wednesday. If you want to sign up for the newsletter, that will be up by then as well. And yes, go look at my website soon. I will have more on there, and you can have more tutorials and information than what's just on my YouTube channel. Anyway, thank you for watching. That's a very long goodbye, and I will see you again soon. Bye.